Welcome to the Osmium Update, your weekly data and infrastructure update from the Osmium Data Group. Brought to you by Max Mortillaro and Arjan Timmerman.
NVIDIA annual GTC event happened last week, Max. What are the key takeaways of that?
So if you were sleeping under a rock or you were in a cave, you probably know that the next big thing in terms of events is NVIDIA GTC. And indeed, there were a lot of announcements at NVIDIA GTC. I think the first one was the new Blackwell architecture, where NVIDIA is claiming a whopping 1 exaflop per rack with around 600,000 components, they said, per rack. And I think 120 crazy kilowatts per rack as well. So assuming you have enough power to, to manage all of that, then I think you can get to pretty amazing stuff. I think that we're getting to a point where compute is not the bottleneck, but power instead. So of course, I guess that NVIDIA continues to dominate. Everybody wants to be a friend of NVIDIA. I think that there was an article out by the Register by Chris Mellor, which was saying that no less than 9 storage vendors were claiming, to have partnerships. Of course, everybody does stuff with them and everybody wants to be friends. That's fair game. They have a very strong roadmap, but who would have guessed that they don't? And they are also making a lot of improvements in terms of networking and interconnects. They're implementing one which is called Spectrumix, which I don't remember exactly what it's doing. And they are even moving towards photonics for network. So we've expected speeds of 1.6 terabits per second, not terabytes, but terabits, right?
Yeah.
So
great.
That's what's happening. And of course, with all you can imagine in terms of, other announcements from vendors. We know that, for example, our friends at Pure Storage were announcing FlashBlade just before the event and so on. And that brings me, to one thing. And I'm thinking, are we really, keeping our feet on the ground when it comes to AI, or are we kind of overhyping AI? There's a world where everybody's talking about AI, and then there's a world where, data centers are burning, So what do you think about that?
So if you just look at sheer numbers, it's very easy. It's not an overhype. There's in the US only there's a $1 trillion market opportunity for AI, and everybody wants its share, right? But still, there's if you still look in normal day-to-day life, is it overhyped? Yes, I think it is. There's still so much going on that I would say, it might get better with AI. It will get better with AI. I think we haven't seen, especially if you look at it from a personal perspective, we haven't seen the true power of AI. I think there's much more to come, but there's so much that needs to be done before we get there. And I think one of the things is, how are we going to make sure that AI is fed with the correct data? I think data is the key thing for all AI. And a lot seems to be going on with data, and a lot seems to be going on with the machine learning, with the LLMs, and where is the data created? And how are we going to make sure that we are going to utilize data that is generated by humans and learned by a and I think that really is key for everything that will come in the near future and beyond that. Are we going to AGI or even further than that? Probably. How long will it take? I don't know anymore. It seems that the hype is that big that it maybe we have it next year already. But Gentic AI, one of the things that was really mentioned during the keynote and during a lot of the GTC things that I've seen, is the next big thing. Is something that's going to be really big in 2025, 2026. And I think that's one of the main things that we will keep an eye on in the near future. But with that, we are a bit bearish on AI, but we don't think AI is only hype, right? So what about AI as a feature?
Yeah, I think AI as a feature is a great thing. We have someone in the industry which, if I remember well, works for Scale, if I don't remember, Scale Computing.
Mhm.
I think the family name is Conway. I'm not 100% sure anymore now. But anyways, he says one thing consistently, that AI is a feature, and I cannot agree more with that. At the moment, AI is only solving certain use cases. It's doing it with more or less quality. But if you think about it, for us, for people working in IT, right, at infrastructure, I'm not thinking about AI in general, but thinking about the professionals, the practitioners. What do they need? They need something which helps them to solve some actual problems. And using AI as a feature opens practical use cases that are, helping people deal with the burden of the day-to-day job, right? So when we think about it, we have several use cases. We have copilots. We've seen some companies demonstrate that. We've seen that, I think Pure Storage has that. At the very least, we've seen demonstrations from Commvault as well, where you can already delegate a lot of work to AI, be it, looking at whether the environment is properly configured, whether you have, let's say, you need to search on data or prepare some reports. It can do that on your behalf. I think that's one of the great, things that you can do there, or query whatever information you need about your infrastructure. We may come to another point where, and we were talking about that. I remember back 6 or 7 or even 8 years ago about, some kind of autonomous or semi-autonomous storage where AI gets in there to help with some decision. Some arrays do that for a long time already. I think that the PowerMax has been doing that at the very least for the past 4 to 5 years, if I'm not mistaken, even, So those features are there. You just don't see them. They're not super cool. Maybe they're not overhyped, but they're here and they're helping with data placement and so on. I think that even our friends at Infinidat are doing that with their neural cache feature. And then you have also all of the capabilities which come to help with ransomware protection. And I think those are, important and noteworthy. But, I think we could go on and on talking about that. So I think that really we should do a session which is really dedicated to that. So I think that in terms of, Arjan, in terms of closing news, few things that you can check on our website. We've been recently talking with Tintri, Scality, and Panzura. We have an article out on Tintri and some coming for Scality and Panzura. We want to thank our friend Chris Mellor for mentioning Osmium Data Group in Block and Files. It's a big honor for us, so thank you, Chris. Really appreciate that. And last but not least, we're at KubeCon next week, so we look forward to see you at KubeCon. If you see us walking around and you recognize us, we're not superstars, but maybe you remember our faces, just stop by and say hi, and we'll be very happy to have a conversation with you. Thank you very much.
Please feel free to follow us for more insights. You can find us on Blue Sky at Osmium Data Group and on LinkedIn also via Osmium Data Group. Thank you and see you next week for another Osmium update.